Close your eyes for a moment and imagine Britain in the 1980s. The streets are alive with a particular kind of energy, complicated, contradictory, and utterly unforgettable. Margaret Thatcher's Britain was a nation pulling in two directions at once, with coal mines closing in the north while champagne flowed in the City of London. The high street was changing, the music was changing, and perhaps most visibly of all, the cars were changing. For millions of ordinary British families, the car parked on the driveway was not merely a machine, it was a statement of identity, aspiration, and belonging. Today on Britain Rewind, we are counting down 10 of the most iconic British cars of the 1980s, and when we reach number 1, you may be genuinely surprised by just how dominant and historically significant that car truly was. And if you love classic British motoring history, please do hit the like button and subscribe to Britain Rewind, it truly means the world to us. Now, let us begin. Number 10, Austin Maestro. Not every car is remembered with fondness, but every car tells a story. The Austin Maestro was launched in 1983 as British Leyland's determined attempt to recapture the family hatchback market from increasingly formidable European rivals. Built at Cowley in Oxford, it arrived with genuine ambition, featuring a talking dashboard that was considered genuinely futuristic at the time of its release. It was aimed squarely at the practical British family, the school run, the weekly shop, the Sunday afternoon drive. Sales were reasonable in its early years, and it filled forecourts across the country with quiet reliability. It was never glamorous, and history has not been particularly kind to its reputation, but the Maestro represents something important, the final, stubborn efforts of a proud British manufacturer refusing to surrender. Number 9, Rover SD1. Before we dismiss British Leyland entirely, we must acknowledge one of its genuine triumphs. The Rover SD1, which had actually launched in 1976 but dominated the early years of the 1980s with considerable presence, was a genuinely beautiful large saloon that won the European Car of the Year award. Its fastback styling was bold, confident, and unlike anything else wearing a British badge at the time. It attracted professional buyers, solicitors, senior managers, and ambitious salesmen who wanted something more characterful than a Ford Granada but could not quite stretch to a Jaguar. Quality control plagued its reputation, which is a tragedy because underneath those frustrations lay a car of real vision and elegance. The SD1 remains one of the most underappreciated British designs of its entire generation. Number 8, Ford Sierra. It was called the Jelly Mold when it first appeared on British roads in 1982, and the public reaction was one of genuine shock. Ford had replaced the beloved Cortina, a car so deeply embedded in British working life it felt almost like a national institution, with something that looked as though it had arrived from the next decade. The aerodynamic Sierra divided opinion sharply, but time proved the critics wrong. Fleet managers loved its fuel efficiency, young professionals appreciated its modernity, and families valued its generous space. It became one of the defining cars of mid-decade Britain, filling motorway lanes and company car parks in equal measure. Whatever people thought of its styling initially, the Sierra quietly got on with the business of being exceptional. Number 7, Jaguar XJS. Few cars in the world have ever looked quite as effortlessly aristocratic as the Jaguar XJS. Originally launched in 1975, it was during the 1980s that this grand touring coupe truly found its audience, particularly after a significant V12 refinement and the arrival of the cabriolet version in 1983. It was the car of choice for those who had arrived, financially and socially, and wished to announce that fact without raising their voice. It appeared on the driveways of country homes, outside private members' clubs, and occasionally in the pages of glossy Sunday supplements. Jaguar's resurgence under new management during this decade helped restore genuine pride in the brand, and the XJS was the beautiful, purring centerpiece of that revival. It was ambition expressed in steel and leather. Number 6, Vauxhall Cavalier Mk2. There is something deeply honest about the Vauxhall Cavalier. It never pretended to be anything other than exactly what it was, a practical, competent, thoroughly decent family car that suited Britain's roads and Britain's budgets with remarkable consistency. The second-generation Cavalier, which arrived in 1981, became the backbone of the company car fleet throughout the decade, trusted by insurance salesmen, regional managers, and traveling representatives from Aberdeen to Penzance. It offered genuine comfort, respectable performance, and the kind of dependable reliability that busy working lives demanded. At various points during the decade it sat comfortably among the best-selling cars in the entire country, which is perhaps the most honest measure of success available. Britain trusted the Cavalier, and the Cavalier rarely let Britain down. And if you have made it this far, stay with us, as one of the cars still to come did not merely succeed during the 1980s, it fundamentally changed what the British public expected from a car forever. Number 5. Metro Turbo. If the standard Metro was Britain's practical little city car, the Metro Turbo was something altogether more exciting and rather unexpected. Launched in 1982, it took the humble Metro body shell, a car many associated with pensioners and first-time drivers, and inserted a turbocharged engine that transformed its character entirely. With 93 brake horsepower pushing a car that weighed next to nothing, it delivered performance that shamed many more expensive rivals. It became a cult car almost immediately, beloved by young drivers who wanted genuine excitement on a realistic budget. Hot hatch culture was exploding across Britain at this time, and the Metro Turbo planted a British flag firmly in the middle of that movement. Small, cheeky, and surprisingly ferocious, it remains an absolute joy to recall. Number 4. Land Rover 110. When Land Rover introduced the 110 in 1983, it marked a quietly significant moment in British automotive history. The longer wheelbase, improved coil spring suspension, and refined body represented a genuine step forward for a vehicle that had always prided itself on capability over comfort. It was still unmistakably a Land Rover. Utilitarian, unstoppable, and built with a straightforwardness that felt deeply British, but it was now more versatile and more livable than anything the company had produced before. Farmers relied on it, the British Army deployed it, and rural communities across the United Kingdom considered it as essential as any piece of working equipment they owned. It never chased glamour, never needed a marketing campaign, and never compromised its core purpose. The Land Rover 110 simply worked, day after day, in conditions that would defeat almost anything else on four wheels. Number 3. Vauxhall Astra GTE. There are cars that sell well, and then there are cars that capture a generation. The Vauxhall Astra GTE, launched in 1983, did something rather remarkable. It took a mainstream family hatchback and transformed it into a genuinely desirable performance car without losing any of its everyday practicality. With its distinctive body kit, alloy wheels, and a rev-happy engine that rewarded enthusiastic driving, it became the car that young Britain dreamed about on poster-covered bedroom walls. It competed fiercely with the Ford Escort XR3i for hot hatch supremacy, and the rivalry between the two camps divided offices, pubs, and school playgrounds with passionate loyalty on both sides. Fleet figures were strong, showroom footfall was consistent, and its cultural footprint ran deep. The Astra GTE was not merely a fast car, it was a statement of personality. Number 2. Jaguar XJ40. When the new Jaguar XJ6, internally known as the XJ40, arrived in 1986, it carried the weight of an entire nation's automotive pride on its long, graceful bonnet. Jaguar had been privatized, had rediscovered its confidence, and had returned to profitability after years of difficulty. This car was the proof. It was technically sophisticated, beautifully designed, and competitive against the finest Germany could offer. It attracted buyers who believed passionately in British craftsmanship, who wanted a car that proved excellence could still emerge from these islands. Its launch was treated as a genuine national event, covered extensively and celebrated enthusiastically. The XJ40 restored something important beyond mere sales figures. It restored the sense that British engineering, when properly supported and intelligently led, remained genuinely world-class. It was more than a car, it was a statement of national renewal. Number 1. Ford Escort. And here we are, number 1, and perhaps now it makes complete sense. The Ford Escort was not simply the best-selling car of the 1980s in Britain, it was the car of the people, the car of the decade, and the car that understood the British driver more completely than almost any other manufacturer dared attempt. From the bustling streets of Manchester to the quiet lanes of rural Somerset, the Escort was everywhere, trusted by everyone, and available in a form to suit virtually every budget and ambition. Its rally pedigree brought genuine excitement to the badge, while the RS Turbo variant elevated it into performance car territory without abandoning its working-class roots. It topped the sales charts year after year with quiet, unstoppable consistency. No other British road car of the 1980s touched as many lives, covered as many miles, or meant as much to as many people. The Ford Escort was, quite simply, 1980s Britain on four wheels. What these 10 cars collectively tell us about 1980s Britain is something far richer than any sales chart could capture. They reflect a nation negotiating its own identity, proud of its industrial heritage yet desperate to modernize, divided by economics yet united by the simple human pleasure of the open road. The cars that sold in their millions were not always the most beautiful or technically advanced. They were the ones that understood what British people actually needed in their daily lives. Whether it was a metro threading through Birmingham traffic or a Jaguar gliding along the M4, each car carried within it the hopes and anxieties of its era. The 1980s reshaped Britain profoundly, and the vehicles on this list were not passive observers of that transformation. They were active participants, woven deeply into the fabric of everyday British life. Thank you so much for watching this journey through 10 of the most iconic British cars of the 1980s here on Britain Rewind. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a story. Now we want to hear from you. Which of these 10 cars would you choose to drive today? Drop them in the comments below. We read every single one of them. Until next time.